Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hidden Gems podcast. And this is a show where we like to talk about a streaming service and the hidden gems that you can watch on that service. And it's a lot of fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Ryan is here.
Hey Rachel, it's great to be back with you once again. Few brain cells less because over on my channel, myself, Jacob Martin, and Jacob Collins from 3D Movie Cinema did a watch along of Battlefield Earth. Oh
Oh my
boy,
gosh.
it's everything that has been advertised over the years.
I've
It's
never seen
horrible.
it.
Yeah, it's one of the worst, like worst ever made, worst sci-fi ever made. If worst is ever in the conversation, it is certainly it. If there's one
Yeah.
highlight that myself, Jacob Martin, and Jacob Collins, we just had a great time just like bouncing off of each other. Jacob Collins went on several unasked for rants about how Scientology is really bad, which I mean, hey, hey, ho, ho. But I mean, just the
Yeah.
replay's on my channel. If you all are interested, go check it out.
Yeah. That would be something else.
Yeah, but I've been having a great time doing the watch alongs. I did one for National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with Jacob Martin, did the Battlefield Earth one. I'm thinking I want to incorporate more of those, just maybe over time. I've got a big one planned for July with a certain movie that's celebrating its 15-year anniversary this year. I will say no more, but it's pretty important. But
Mhm.
that's down the road. But I've been having a ton of fun doing it.
Cool. Yeah, if y'all like watch-alongs, cheap plug, the Patreon, we do every month, we do a watch-along or Q&A. It's usually a Hallmark or Hallmark-like movie because that's the connections that I have. But they're pretty fun to watch along with the star or the director or the writer or somebody like that and hear about, how it all came together. And we just had in January, we had James Denton on, which was a pretty big get for us because he's not on like socials or anything like, and he listened to our recap, our episode on his movie last year, and he reached out to us because and it was super nice. And anyway, we interviewed him for Hallmarkies, and he agreed to come and do the watch along. So that was pretty cool to have someone like him on. So if you're interested in how movies are made, you should check out the Patreon because we have another really fun one coming up in February. That's going to be good. So like I said, cheap plug, check it out. It's good.
Who's the most famous person in the Hallmark world that you've ever had for a watch along or just on their
For
period? I think you might have told me.
for the watch along, it's probably, well, I don't know. Like we had Mary Lou Henner on. She's pretty famous. She's been on a lot of shows and things. But so probably her, James Denton. I mean, he was on Desperate Housewives. He's pretty popular. Um, Trying to think who else. We've had a lot. It's like it's nice to have the writers on because they can tell you they're fun to watch for a watch along because even if they're not like famous, because they can tell you the whole scope from the very ideas, to the finished product. So some of the best watch alongs we've had have been with the writers, some of the best interviews. As far as the most famous person I've interviewed, um, mm,
Would it be the RRR guy?
yeah, I mean, certainly for the moment, that's true. For also, I interviewed Fran Drescher. She's pretty famous. Twice. She's pretty, I would say, pretty famous.
You
She's also
know,
president of SAG-AFTRA at the moment. So
it'd be really cool if you and Michelle got like someone from Heartland on and you watched like one or two episodes and have like running commentary going on.
yeah, that could be fun. That could be fun. I mean, yeah, Amber Marshall's our most popular interview by far. Like, I think it has over 50,000 views, just in the views, not the downloads.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so her interviews, we've had her twice. Anybody from Heartland does super well. They're on They're listening to interviews. Even people like we interviewed this actor named Lucian River, and he was a child actor who was on the show for 2 years. And I didn't know if the interview would do that well because he hadn't been on the show for at least 2 years. So it'd been a while. So I just didn't think, but he was so great. One of my favorite interviews. He was so great. But anyway, his did super well. So that made me happy. Um, I interviewed Kaylee Bagel from Food Network. She's on the kitchen, and that was a pretty big one. I interviewed Danica McKellar. She's pretty popular. But anyway, it's fun. Holly Robinson Pete, she was a pretty big get. But yeah, so check out the Patreon. And I'm glad you're doing those because I do think it's fun. Like it's interesting because when I'm watching a movie for fun, I get a certain thing out of it. When I'm watching it for the podcast and taking detailed notes, I get a certain thing out of it. And but when I'm doing it for the watch along, it's like you get even another thing. So there's all these different ways to watch movies, which is fun.
Yeah, and it really helps because Jacob and I, we just like we just have a chemistry with each other that
Yeah.
it's just makes it even better. So I've been having fun doing that. Most of the
Cool.
stuff in theaters has been very enjoyable. Saw a Man Called Otto.
Yeah,
Took my
what'd you
mom
think?
to it. Took my mom to it, and that movie was a bowl of chicken soup for the soul. I mean, that movie was just
I cried.
yeah. I was not ready because I've read the book and I love the book to pieces, but
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, they made about as good of an American version of this movie as you could probably ever ask for.
Yeah, I agree. And if people want to watch the Swedish version of the movie, that's on Canopy. If our friends over at Canopy have it. So, but yeah, I agree that I think it was about as good as we could have expected. I wasn't sure about the casting when they announced Tom Hanks. I was like, that's very strange casting, but I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, you see, the secret of a man called Ove, why the book works, is that Ove is a grump, but there's a lot of tragedy behind his grumpiness. Like
Yes.
behind his heart is like a thousand pounds of blast plating because he's like, I've been hurt before and I will never be hurt again. And they captured that wholeheartedly with Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, he's just given up. He's given up on. He just wants to be with his wife, and he's just sad.
Yeah, and
So
all those little quirks and eccentricities of be like attending the HOA meetings, being the whole get off my yard. There's a great sadness to it in this one.
yeah,
Like we all have encountered an auto or some person, especially if you've worked in like retail or something like that. Like
yeah,
I work in a library and I have encountered quite a few people who are just like that. They're like, you library people, da, 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 da. It's very on brand. But
hmm.
you know,
Well, speaking of Man Called Otto, I got to preview or review, I guess, that movie on Good Things Utah this last weekend. I did Good Things. I mean, I did Man Called Otto. I did Plain, Women Talking, and the Wedding Veil Inspiration for Hallmark. It was my
which
first time going on the show. I've never done live TV before, so I was pretty nervous, but I think it turned out pretty good.
no, yeah, you crushed it. I watched the whole thing. And like they should hire you. They should like bring you on as a regular. All right, let's bring Rachel in. Tell us what we should and shouldn't watch. Let's do it.
Yeah, I hope so. That would be amazing. They were super nice. I enjoyed it. So I think I will be on every 2 weeks. So
Ooh.
I mean, I guess they haven't officially given that was my tryout, but they commented on the video. They said you did a fantastic job. So I'm guessing they liked it. We'll see.
They would be crazy not to have you back.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. But anyway, let's talk about the streaming service for this week. Who are we talking about? What are we talking about?
And we're talking about Paramount Plus, and there's actually some stuff they've been talking about, like Tulsa King, which have
Hmm.
gotten quite a bit of steam. And I haven't seen it because I'm currently working my way through Yellowstone, and I am greatly enjoying it.
Yeah, and
But
Yellowstone is like all over the place. It's on like certain seasons or on Amazon, certain seasons or some. I feel like it's confusing.
it's very weird, just kind of it. But Paramount Plus is it's got Top Gun Maverick now on there, so they've got secretly some heavy bullets in the chamber.
Yes. Yeah, and some of my picks are actually on Showtime. You have to get a an additional you have to pay an additional fee for Showtime. So maybe that's a bit of a cheat, but whatever. I just wanted to talk about them.
I mean, Viacom, I assume, owns Showtime, so it fits under the same
Yeah.
umbrella.
It's there. You can watch it on the app, so I think it counts. But yeah, let's dive in. Let's talk about some hidden gems. Of course, Top Gun Maverick would not be considered a hidden gem, but we
No,
both
it's
enjoyed it.
like number six on like the highest grossing movies of all time now by this
Right.
point.
Yes. So, what is your first pick?
So my first choice is a horror film from last year, and this is walking the tightrope, but I think because 2021 was, or 2021, 2022 was such a great year for horror, there was like several ones where I was like, they really outdid themselves. And one of the ones that was a very pleasant surprise was Smile. And I remember seeing the trailer for this and I was like, this is gonna be crap. Just the general tone. I thought it was gonna be a sequel to that really terrible Blumhouse film called Truth or Dare, where the victims smile like that before they do it, and it's just gonna be really bad. I was pleasantly surprised by Smile. It actually was quite effective, and it really did a good job of just weaving in this psychological torment of the stuff going on while not diving into the cheesy or too deep into the over the top. The
Yeah.
ending is not the best. I don't know if I should spoil it. It's been a few months, but I think the best I can describe it is it's a very annoying trope in horror slash movies in general that is like one of those things where you're just like, oh come on, are you serious? Like it's one of those things where it's incredibly annoying. I Rachel, should I say it? I feel like I should say what I'm talking about.
Well, let's. I haven't seen it yet, so and I might
Okay,
actually
then
catch up on it. So let's not spoil it. But
I'll
just enough to know that you didn't care. You were mixed on the ending. Is that fair?
It kind of reminded me of a worse version of 1408, which is a very underrated Stephen King movie starring
Mm-hmm.
John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. But Smile was 1,000 times better than it had any right to be. That's my thesis.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this came out when I was traveling, either at D23 or New York Film Festival. So I missed it because I did try to see most of the not like super graphic horror movies last year, but I missed this one. So yeah, but I've heard from quite a few people that it surprised them that it was fun.
Yeah, and considering the fact that the victims die smiling like that, like this, like by all accounts, it shouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
it somehow did. It really did. It's not
Hmm.
perfect, but when it hits a home run.
Hmm. Hmm. What was your favorite horror of 2022?
Barbarian. I did not
Mm,
see the twist in that movie coming.
yeah,
It was very effective in the lead up,
it
and then
was
when it
good.
happened, it was like the thing happens, and then you go to Justin Long just driving in his car on the Pacific Coast Highway. You're like, what?
What?
Like
Well, and the casting was so key in that movie. I mean, casting Bill Skarsgård keeps you wondering like what is happening because you expect him to be like an outright villain. But then also Justin Long, he's so likable as an actor. So the fact he's playing this kind of smarmy Me Too guy is really like is just brilliant casting.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Justin Long, I've seen him in more than a few movies now. He is very good when he's
Yeah.
given the right material. I actually
Hmm.
enjoyed him in Live Free or Die Hard, which is a Die Hard movie. That's the PG-13 one where everyone was like, "Oh, it's PG-13, ergo it's bad." I'm like, no, it's not. It actually kind of predicted the whole techno thing, not the techno thing, but the technology thing that we're kind of living through now. Basically, the bad guy's plan is to hack into every computer, shut it down, and then steal all the money. So it's not too far-fetched through a 2023 lens. That's my point.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I like him and he's just not that into you, which I think is sort of a little bit of an underrated rom-com. But he's just a very likable actor. But anyway, my favorite was The Menu, but I did enjoy Barbarian quite a bit, so I
I
agree.
mean, can't go wrong. That's my favorite movie of last year. I wouldn't call it a straight horror movie. It has definitely horror tendencies, but I would consider more of a thriller. But that's just me personally.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it does have some pretty bloody parts though.
Yeah,
I
especially
mean, it
what
seems
happens
like
to
that's the
Nick.
big I don't understand the difference between thriller and horror, to be honest. But it seems like from what I've heard from people, the big difference is how bloody is it. That's what makes something horror versus thriller.
I mean, Nicholas Holt, what happens to him in that movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
goodness
guy
gracious.
sh one guy shoots himself, right? So, but anyway. um, but yeah, those are both good movies from last year. My talk about our hard left, as you like to say. My first choice is Sense Sensibility from 1996, and this movie or 95, excuse me, 95. I just rewatched it for the every another plug for the Patreon. Every week I review a movie from the AFI 100 Films, 100 Passions, 100 Movies, 100 Passions list. And so Sense Sensibility was this week. So I rewatched it and it's really great. I think it has one of the great movie cries. So few movies have like true ugly crying. The kind of crying that actually we do when you start crying, where you're like, you know, that's you almost never see that. And I think it's because it's really hard to fake. Like you have to get to that emotional spot. And so it's easier just to have like a teardrop come down your eye or just to start crying a little bit. But when Emma Thompson at the end of the movie when she starts crying, it's so good, it's so real, and I think her screenplay is excellent. It's excellent adaptation. Kate Winslet is great as always, and it's beautifully made. I mean, it's hard to believe that Ang Lee is the same guy who did like a Hulk movie, who did like he's just amazing. And I even like little things in the movie, like Hugh Laurie's performance. It's just like this little side character, but he's really funny. And just disdained. He's like a Gordon Ramsay of Jane Austen. All of that I like. The only nitpick I have with the movie is that Eleanor is supposed to be 19 and Emma Thompson was 36 when she made the movie. And so they try to make it up by talking about how Eleanor's an old maid and other things, but that's not in the book. She's not an old maid in the book. And so I kind of wish she had cast someone else for her screenplay, but she does the cry so good that I can't be that mad. And I think she has great chemistry with Kate Winslet. That's my only nitpick. I love the movie. It's one of my it would be in my like top 100 favorite movies of all time.
Yeah,
It's great.
the thing about Ang Lee is that he's someone who should be considered like in the Robert Wise like area of directors with wild swings in terms
Yeah.
of
It's really
genre.
fun. You don't know what to expect from him.
Yeah, I have not seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I know I'm bad. I should see it, and I will one day. But I loved Life of Pi. I think that movie is really underrated, especially some scenes where the ship sinks and Pi actually
Yeah.
sees the ship going down. Ooh, it's
Yeah. He did
haunting
win.
stuff.
I think he won best director for that movie. But
Yeah,
uh but
that's
yeah.
crazy that no one remembers that.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I mean Sense Sensibility is pretty popular, so and there's the Austinites, but still, I thought it was worth bringing up, and it is one of the Showtime ones, so you have to have the Showtime membership for Paramount Plus. But what's your next pick?
So my next choice is a movie from 1999. It's a James Bond movie, and I love me some James Bond, so I had to include this, especially because there's a school of thought that Pierce Brosnan only did like one good James Bond movie. There's another one. It's called Tomorrow Never Dies. This was starring Brosnan, Michelle Yeoh, and Jonathan Pryce. And the villain of the movie, played by Jonathan Pryce, basically is this Rupert Murdoch-esque news mogul who wants to use his news network to steer the world into World War III. And considering the times that we live in now, it's pretty relevant just how that is. Just be like, that could kind of happen, strangely enough. It works because Jonathan Pryce is a really good actor, but just the commentary has aged kind of well. Like, this is a James Bond movie that I will say is definitely better than people make it out to be. It's Brosnan was a very good Bond, but he was not given the best material to work with. It was like GoldenEye, and then like two ones that people forgot about, and then Die Another Day. Then so I feel
Which is
kind
the
of
one with Christmas with Denise Richards?
that was Die Another Day,
Okay, yeah, that
unfortunately.
one's bad.
Yeah, that one bottom of the barrel right there. So I kind of feel bad for him because it was like Die Another Day kind of killed the series. And then Daniel Craig is like, all right, let's do Casino Royale and bring things back, which he did, and Martin Campbell. But Tomorrow Never Dies, I feel like it's slept on too much. And I think it's an incredibly underrated Bond movie. It's one of those that its commentary has aged very well. The action is a lot of fun. Lucy Liu is great. Or wait, I'm I'm going to speak too soon. I said Lucy Liu. I believe it is Michelle Yeoh. Let me
Yeah,
check.
I did. Yeah, Michelle Yeoh.
And I was wrong about the year. It's 97, not 99. That was
So the Denise Richards one is The World Is Not Enough.
oh, it is. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I was thinking of Halle Berry. I'm getting my Bond girls confused. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh is Wai Lin in Tomorrow Never Dies, and of course it's Michelle Yeoh, so she's great. And yeah, I this movie's criminally underrated, especially in
Yeah.
Bond action movies. Call it whatever you want.
Yeah, I haven't seen very many James Bond movies. I've seen, I think, all of the I guess Pierce Brosnan's. I've seen all of the Daniel Craig's and then just like a few others here and there. But I haven't seen it. I don't think I've seen a single one with Roger Moore. I think I've only seen maybe one with Sean Connery. It is a franchise that I haven't seen that many. I don't, it's not like something I love, but when it's done well, the action and everything, it can be fun. I don't know, this new series I thought was I appreciated that they like made Bond a more fully fledged character. He wasn't just like a womanizer. But yeah, the I don't think that have I seen this one? Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know. I know I've seen Goldeneye, and I know I've seen the Denise Richards one.
Yeah, well, in terms of Roger Moore, the two ones that are required viewing are Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. You can take or leave the rest.
Mm, okay, that's good to know. It's good to know. Yeah, I mean, I just don't remember what I saw in the 90s, but I remember seeing that I just that the Denise Richards one that she was named Christmas.
Oh,
Was her
believe me,
name?
that's not the craziest name that a Bond girl has been given. In Goldfinger, the Bond girl's name is Pussy Galore.
Oh dear.
Goldfinger is one of my favorite Bond movies, but even when I saw it as like a 9-year-old, I was like, okay,
That's really funny.
that's a
Uh,
double meaning.
on Twitter, whenever I am tweeting about Puss in Boots, because you know how much I love that movie, The Last Wish, it always gets this like sensitive content warning. And I'm like, I was I always have to appeal it, and I'm like, it's a movie for children.
Context, Twitter, context.
Yes. All right. Well, my next choice is a movie from last year. It's called Devotion. And this isn't like a great movie. This is like a solid movie. This is like a 3-star movie. The thing I like about it is that it tells the story of this man who was um, shot down, a fighter pilot in the Korean War. And we don't know that much about the Korean War. We don't talk that much about the Korean War. So it's like interesting on that level. And Glenn Powell is, great. He plays this guy's best friend, fellow Navy pilot. And then Jonathan Majors, very good as this true story. This man, it is a little slow. The movie could use a little bit of tightening, especially like the long section where they're in oh, like, where are they? It's like oh, one of those fancy places in Europe. I can't think of the name. Luxembourg
Paris.
or someplace like that. Yeah. Anyway, there's a long section with that. With they run into Elizabeth Taylor. Um, but I still thought that overall it was worth seeing. Is like a just as to learn about history and to see two pretty good performances, I think.
Yeah, this year is going, the 2023 is going to be the year of Jonathan Majors because that dude is going to be in Ant-Man. He's going to be the villain in Creed 3, and who knows what else he's going to be in because like I'm so looking forward to Creed 3 and Ant-Man. That Ant-Man movie gets better the more I look at it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, especially after what he did in. Oh, you didn't watch Loki, but he was in Loki. As our first introduction to Kong, and he was great in that. It was really good, but that was just like one variant of Kong in Loki. So I'm really curious to see what the other variants are of him.
Yeah, I've seen clips, so I know what I'm walking into.
Yeah,
I know the context.
yeah. So I think this is worth seeing, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, this is one that I missed for whatever reason. I guess it just fell right under my radar because
Hmm.
I do earnestly try and see as many new releases as I can, but some I just
Yeah,
can't get to for one
sure.
reason or another.
Yeah, I mean, nobody can see everything.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, I saw a what including rewatches, I saw over 600 movies last year, and there are still a lot that I missed. People
Like
were outraged that Megan is the first killer doll movie I've ever seen. I've not ever seen a Child's Play movie. I've never seen an Annabelle movie. I've never seen. They were like, "What?" Like, I'm sorry, I don't see a lot of horror. I don't know.
yeah, it's not really your bag. I know that.
Yeah. And I think as long as you, in your review, you state your context, that people know, okay, this is where she's coming from, then I think that's fine. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, what do you have next?
So my next choice is a movie from 2004, and this is just a piece of my childhood because I read all these books, and I have not seen this movie in a long time, but I do remember liking it. It is Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. This is this is based on the first book, I believe, or they cram a couple of the books into one, but this is based on the book series by the fictional author Lemony Snicket, but basically it follows the Pevensey children. Their house burns down, and so then they are entrusted to their Count Olaf, or their loose relative, Count Olaf, played by Jim Carrey in this one. And basically, Count Olaf is just a horrible person who just wants their inheritance, which they have not received yet, but they will receive when they are older. And basically, in the books, it's a series of just Count Olaf trying to do several disguises and things to where he's like, I'm going to get the money now, but then is just stymied at every turn. And it basically involves Mr. Poe, who is this social worker type, shipping the kids off to various places just to keep them, and it just never works. The books are a lot of fun, more fun than I'm probably describing them. But this movie is actually a lot of fun. I'm surprised they were able to get Jim Carrey for this because, I mean, it's Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey things. He's a little bit past the 90s prime, but he's still, doing his Jim Carrey stuff, and it's fun. They got Meryl Streep for this as their Aunt Josephine, and I mean, it's Meryl Streep, so she's good. But it's just crazy to think about how she's like multiple time Oscar winner, many, many times over nominated, and yet she's doing a movie called Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. Crazy stuff,
Yeah.
but she
Well,
is.
she's not like she's not that highbrow. I mean, you think
No, no,
about
I
she
know
did
that. It's just
both Mamma Mia movies.
no, no, I do know that, but it just again, it's just weird knowing the context of the
Yeah.
books that she would be involved in something like
Yeah.
this. Because the books
Well,
get even crazier than this movie, if you can believe
yeah.
it.
Well, and I've never seen the movie, but I kind of get maybe her performance is kind of like what she did in Into the Woods, maybe.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if yeah,
well,
a little bit of
sort of like that. Her character is this kind of hemophiliac. She's afraid of everything. So because like her house, like the oven will burst into flames if she uses it. So it's very weird, kind of like that. And really, the premise of the books, and they do touch on it in the movies, that these Pevensey kids get shipped off to even worse places. Like I believe in the fourth or fifth book, they get sent to this boarding school where the headmaster like forces them to listen to his crappy violin playing, and he eats these hard candies that are so loud to the point where like close your mouth, but he runs the place so he doesn't care. And then they get sent off to this place where they have to like shuck oysters, or not shuck oysters, but do something with fish. It's a whole thing. I'd be here all day,
yeah.
but I have not seen the Neil Patrick Harris one. I've heard sort of good things, so I might see
Yeah.
it one day. But I do remember enjoying this Jim Carrey one.
Yeah, I've seen a couple episodes and it's very well done, very well made. I've never read the books, but my sisters were really into them. They were big fans. Well, my next choice is definitely a tough sit. It's a hard movie to watch, but I think worthwhile. It's called Attica, and this is a documentary about the prison uprising rebellion in Attica prison in New York State in 1971. And it does get pretty. There are some pretty graphic videos of what happens to the guards and even some of the prisoners and other things like that with the uprising. I don't know how they got that footage. I don't even, unbelievable. They have a lot of interviews with the survivors, inmates, family, all of that. And it is brutal, but it is very like you learn a lot, and it's moving and part of history to learn about. And so I think it's worth a watch. It was very well done, very well put together, but just no going into it, this is a tough set.
Yeah, yeah, this is one of those harsh ones where it's like it really happened. You should watch it,
Yeah,
but it's gonna suck.
right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So and it's just amazing. I don't know how they they got all this footage. It's just unbelievable. Like, who
Yeah,
was filming? How did they get it? It's amazing.
it's the thing with these documentaries that I just consistently ask myself is like I mean, like Summer of Soul, I get it. They were preserving this for posterity. I get that. But some of these, I'm just like, who snuck cameras into this prison? And like, how does this footage look so good in like
Yeah,
1971?
unbelievable. It is really amazing. So I think it's worth a watch. But what about you? What's your next?
So my next choice is a music biopic from 2021, and it is called Respect. And I've been kind of harsh on music biopics in the past, but Maybe it was because they got Jennifer Hudson to voice, or not the voice, but to play Aretha Franklin, and she's excellent in this, that it just gets it the cut above for me. This is the music biopic on Aretha Franklin. Do I even really need to say who she is? She's just one of the greatest of all time. Her voice is just incredible. No matter what era, pick any era, she just was always on point, and just one of those singers that just go out of your way and watch the Kennedy Center performance of her doing Natural Woman in front of her friend Carol Kane. That
Well,
is,
that was a problem though in the movie, I think, is that they showed that real performance. And so it made it, I think that was a mistake because you had that to compare the movie to. And it's like, shouldn't have shown us that because it just made the movie not look as good to me.
yeah, I can kind of understand that, but they did get a pretty good cast for this. I mean, Jennifer Hudson, like I mentioned, you got Forrest Whitaker as CL Franklin, and then Marlon Wayans surprisingly is in this, who I did not expect to see, but he's
Yeah.
in this as well. And like I said, I've been harsh on music biopics in the past, but I don't know what it is about this one. Maybe I took my mom to see it, so it was like good feeling. Maybe it's because it was 2021 and theaters had just opened back up. So I'm like, come to me. So maybe it was something like that. But I just like this one. I did.
Mhm. I can understand why I didn't go fresh on it because I felt like the movie, I wish that it had just been about her like adult life or maybe like her first album or something like that because the I thought they handled all of the stuff with her children and her being having children at like 14 and 15 years old. I thought they handled that very poorly. And I was like, if you're going to take that on, if you're going to include that part of her life, you need to talk about it more. You need to, I don't know, you need to handle it better than they handled it, I thought.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, they it is
Yeah, like this is like a big deal, and they just like brushed over. Like this is a like I was shocked. I didn't know that about her, that she had children as a teenager, um, and I don't know. I just felt like if you're going to take that on, you need to do better.
yeah, that definitely makes sense. It's scary to think because I remember, and I can't remember where I read this or listened to this, but Oprah Winfrey had like a child when she was like 12 or 13 and she lost the baby. I can't remember what the
Mm,
context was of it, but I remember reading about it. And I'm like, wow, that's just horrible. Like what
yeah.
happened?
Yeah, I mean it, but I agree with some of the positives. I'm obviously Jennifer Hudson's amazing, and yeah, Marlon Wayans is pretty good in that. Yeah. So, well, my next pick is a movie that a lot of people just dismissed because of the trailer. It's Clifford the Big Red Dog, and this movie is actually really cute. It's a cute movie about a little girl who gets a dog and it ends up being this Clifford the Big Red Dog. And it's her story about her, it's their story about them and this big dog. And if you like movies about dogs, boy and her dog, girl and her dog in this case, then you'll enjoy this. It's cute. It's got Jack Whitehall, who's fun. It's got Tony Hale, David Allen Greer, John Cleese. It's a simple movie. It's about this little girl and her dog. That's a big dog, but it's cute.
It's strange. We're in this era like Clifford, the Big Red Dog movies, and Lyle Lyle Crocodile, that got a movie last
Hmm.
year. We're getting a Harold and the Purple Crayon movie later on this
Oh
year.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, and I liked Lyle Lyle. I probably liked that better because it had songs, and I'm a sucker for musical. But they're pretty close, pretty similar.
yeah, next thing you know, we're gonna get like a Berenstain Bears movie.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's in development at all.
Now I know I work at a library. Berenstain Bears moves quite a bit. I
Yep.
would say Pete the Cat also, but Pete the Cat's on Amazon now.
I loved the Berenstain Bears growing up. I read those all the time. What is your last pick?
So my last choice, going back to the 60s now, and it was one of my dad's favorite war movies, The Dirty Dozen. So this was directed by Robert Aldrich. I almost said Robert Altman. Robert Aldrich,
That would
who
be a different movie.
for sure. But he directed the original The Longest Yard starring Burt Reynolds and the original What Happened to Baby Jane. But this movie has a really big cast of who was big in like the late 60s. Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson, who would go on to bigger things with the Death Wish movies. Jim Brown, who was a big football player and then got really big in the acting world. And this movie is about Lee Marvin recruiting essentially prisoners of war who are either going to be serving really long sentences or will be executed. They've like the lowest of the low. But basically, it's like that movie Triple X with Sam Jackson and Vin Diesel. Take these criminals who have nowhere else to go and then mold them into something else with the promise of, hey, we'll reduce your sentence or we'll even let you go if you help us. So
Give them guns. Great idea.
it, I mean, it's World War II, so you got to stop the Nazis. So traditional
Yeah.
thinking goes out the window there. But I've
Yeah.
always enjoyed this movie. My dad and I have always gotten a kick out of it. Lee Marvin was just fantastic in his day. It just, the banter between everyone involved is just so much fun. It's not the greatest war movie ever, but whenever I think about it, I'm always like, that's some fuzzy memories there.
I've never seen it. Of course, I've heard about it, but I've never seen this one. So one of these days I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Well, my last pick is one of my favorite movies from 2022. Talked about it all the time. And it is in the Showtime part of Paramount Plus, but you can watch it on Canopy for free if you want. It's called Hit the Road. And Hit the Road is a Iranian film, and it's by director Pana Panahi. This is his debut film. His father, for I think it's Farrar Panahi, I think is his name. His father's a celebrated Iranian filmmaker, and he's actually in jail right now. He's been in jail a number of times, and he keeps putting out really great films. And here's Hit the Road from his son, and I just loved this movie. It's about this family, and they don't even give them names. It's mother, father, older brother, younger brother, and they're on this trip. And one of the things I love about the movie is that it doesn't feel a need to like tell you everything. You get little details, and there's some things that are left sort of ambiguous, like you don't know what's kind of happening or what's, and I kind of like that. I like the because I think that it, when done right, and it is here, there's discussion of like what's happening with older brother. Why are they trying to get him out of the country? They're taking him to Turkey. um what's going on with his family. And it has all the tension that you would think in a movie like that, but it also has just sort of the normal shenanigans of going on a road trip with your family. So it has both. So it's not like a heavy movie. It's light, funny, but then also tense too. It's like does both so well. And younger brother is absolutely adorable. This little boy, he is so cute. Ryan Sarlacc is his name, and the mother's wonderful, great performance. And I just the dad, he's got a broken leg, and so he's like really crotchety. And I love the movie. I've never seen a movie set in Iran that's in like the countryside of Iran. Like any movie, I not that I've seen tons of Iranian movies, but the ones I have seen have all been in Tehran in the city. So it was so cool to see this new side of this country and the beautiful vistas and cinematography and everything. And I just wish that it got more of like a Oscar run, because I think it's a wonderful film and
Well, I
an
mean,
amazing debut to be your first movie.
there's always best international film. If is that what they're calling it? Did they get rid
Yeah.
of him?
No, I think it got I think it might maybe got selected, but it's just gotten like there's like no buzz for it.
Oh, that's kind
You
of
know what I
sad.
mean? Let's see. I'm looking. Oh, maybe
Like,
it
son, we're
didn't.
going on a road trip. Awesome. Why? I can't tell you.
Yeah, I guess it premiered at Cannes. Um, but maybe it didn't get picked as Iran's pick. I don't know. But that probably has more to do with politics than anything else. Um, because of his dad being in prison and everything. But I think it was just a great film. And so like I said, if you have Canopy app, you can watch it on there for
Oh, well,
free.
I love me a good road trip movie, so that
Mm.
sounds really good.
Oh, you'll like it. I really think you'll like it. It's really excellent. So that's my last pick. We did it.
All
Back to
right.
Paramount Plus. Let us know what you've been watching on Paramount Plus. I know they have a lot of TV. My sister was just telling me she was watching Twin Peaks, I guess, on Paramount Plus, the old Twin Peaks. And they've got Survivor on there. They've got, I think, some of Yellowstone, a lot of stuff. So check it out. That new Jeremy Renner show that's on Paramount Plus.
Which big ups to him. I hope he gets better soon. That
Yeah,
dude
yeah,
is going through a lot. I hope he
for
gets
sure.
better soon.
Yeah, definitely. So there we go. Let us know what you think. And Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. There's, of course, my YouTube channel just called Ryan Cam. If you all were there for the Battlefield Earth watch party, I thank you all so much. It was it was a lot of fun. But Jacob and I will be back with Life in the Movies on Wednesday, and then continuing with my Road to Creed 3 series covering Rocky 3, and then covering in the Shyamalan project The Last Airbender. Oh jeez.
Ooh,
But thankfully I'm
you
going to have
watching that this week?
no, though the happening was this week, and
Oh, okay, okay.
oh man, I that was 90 minutes that I am never going to get back. But it's making for a great review. It made for a great review, and people really liked seeing me lose my sanity over the course of 5-ish minutes. So that's fun. And
The
then
hard thing about Last Airbender is it's just so boring.
yeah.
That is just a dull movie. And uh I mean, at least the happening is kind of spectacularly bad.
But even those parts are few and far between. The rest of the time you're just sitting there like, you're adults. How are you making these decisions? But anyway,
Why are you
Last
talking about
Airbender
hot dogs? What is going on?
Last Airbender video will be dropping this coming week, and I will be joined by Mike Thomas, the novice cinephile, who is probably the biggest Last Airbender, Avatar, the Last Airbender fan that I could
Okay.
find. So I'm at
Yeah.
least going to have someone to help me cover this truly awful film. But
Oh, one
but
of the
if you all
worst.
did not check me out, please do.
Yeah, y'all should definitely check it out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. And also check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Got lots of fun stuff going on over there. They started re-airing Drop Dead Diva on Hallmark movies. And I love that show so much. It's one of my favorites. And so we're doing a lot of coverage at Hallmarkies podcast of that show. So definitely take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. Check out the Patreon and the merch store. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye everyone.